The last time anyone saw Rachel Meyer, she was standing at the edge of Blackwood Bay, staring into the fog. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and the cold October mist rolled in thick over the water, swallowing the cliffs in a ghostly shroud. The ocean waves crashed against the jagged rocks below, their sound distant, muffled by the eerie silence that had settled over the bay. Rachel and her best friend, Lena Carter, had come to this spot countless times before. It was their place, a quiet escape from the noise of their small town. But tonight felt different. Rachel felt different. "I just need a minute," Rachel murmured, barely audible over the wind. Lena glanced at her, frowning. "Are you okay?" Rachel didn't answer right away. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself, and there was something in her eyes, something distant, almost like fear. I've been having these dreams," Rachel finally said, her voice shaky, "of someone standing right here, in the fog, calling my name." Lena shivered. "That's creepy." Rachel swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on the swirling mist beyond the cliffs. I think it's a memory." Lena's stomach twisted. "A memory of what?" Rachel hesitated. Then she shook her head. "I don't know." Lena's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glancing down for just a second. Just 1 second. When she looked back up, Rachel was gone. Panic slammed into her chest. "Rachel?" she called out, stepping forward. Her eyes darted across the cliffside, searching for any sign of her friend. Nothing. No splash, no scream, no footprints leading away, just emptiness. The fog thickened, curling around Lena like icy fingers. The silence was deafening. Rachel had vanished. By the time the police arrived, the mist had swallowed the bay whole. They found no trace of Rachel, not in the water, not on the cliffs, not anywhere. A tragic accident, they said, but Lena knew better. Rachel hadn't fallen. She had been taken. And whatever was waiting for her in the fog had been waiting a long time. Lena Carter sat on Rachel's bed, her hands trembling as she flipped through the worn pages of her best friend's journal. The room still smelled like Rachel's lavender-scented candles, but it felt eerily empty, as if the life had been drained from it the moment she disappeared. The police had been no help. They ruled it an accidental fall, a tragic case of a young woman getting too close to the cliffs in the fog. They had barely searched before they wrote Rachel off as another unfortunate soul lost to the sea. But Lena knew better. And now she had proof. The journal had been tucked away under Rachel's mattress, its leather cover worn from years of use. Lena had almost missed it, but something in the back of her mind whispered that Rachel left this for her to find. The entries started off normal, notes about school, late-night thoughts, unfinished song lyrics. But as she flipped through the pages, Rachel's handwriting became messier, more frantic. Then, on the last page, in shaky, uneven letters, was a chilling message. "If I disappear, it wasn't an accident. I think someone is following me. And I think they took the others too." Lena's breath caught. "The others?" Her hands trembled as she turned back a few pages. Rachel had been investigating something. Names were scribbled in the margins, alongside locations, dates of disappearances. Girls, all young, all gone without a trace. And all had vanished near Blackwood Bay. Lena's mind raced. Rachel knew something. She had been piecing together a puzzle that no one else had noticed, and now she was gone too. The room suddenly felt too quiet. A floorboard creaked outside Rachel's bedroom door. Lena's heart pounded. She wasn't alone. Slowly, she turned her head toward the door, her breath shallow. The hallway beyond was dark, empty. But the eerie feeling in her gut told her someone had been watching. Had Rachel been right? Was someone following her too? Tightening her grip on the journal, Lena knew one thing for certain. Rachel had been searching for the truth. And now, Lena had to finish what she started. Lena gripped Rachel's journal tightly as she made her way back to Blackwood Bay. The night air was cold, and the mist curled around her ankles like ghostly fingers, making it harder to see. The town had always whispered about the fog, how it swallowed things whole, how it could keep secrets. Rachel had been here the night she disappeared, If Lena wanted answers, she had to go back to where it all started. The cliffs loomed ahead, barely visible through the thick haze. The sound of the crashing waves below mixed with the eerie silence of the surrounding forest. It felt wrong. Then she saw them. Footprints. Her pulse quickened. They were faint, but still visible, leading away from the cliff's edge. Rachel hadn't fallen. She walked away. Or worse, someone had taken her. Lena followed the footprints into the dense fog, the trees pressing in around her. The deeper she went, the more she felt like she was being watched. Then, a noise. A twig snapped behind her. She spun around, heart hammering. "Hello?" No answer. The fog thickened, distorting shapes, turning the trees into shadowy figures. But one of them moved. A dark silhouette stood just beyond the mist. Tall, unmoving, watching. Lena's breath caught. The figure took a step forward, its shape shifting through the fog. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, it said, "You should have left this alone." Lena bolted. She gasped for breath, clutching Rachel's journal to her chest. Who was that? How long had they been watching her? One thing was clear, Rachel had been right, something was happening in Blackwood Bay. And now they knew Lena was looking. She glanced over her shoulder, but the fog had swallowed the forest whole again. The figure was gone. For now, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching her. She barely slept that night, jolting awake at the slightest sound outside her window. The fog clung to the town well past dawn, thick and unrelenting. It was as if Blackwood Bay itself was trying to hide something. But Lena wasn't going to stop. She spent the morning combing through Rachel's journal again, trying to make sense of the scattered notes and frantic handwriting. What had Rachel discovered? Then something caught her eye. A name written over and over in the margins of multiple pages. Daniel Whitmore. Lena frowned. The name didn't ring a bell. Who was he? And why was Rachel so fixated on him? Digging deeper, she found a torn newspaper clipping folded inside the journal. The edges were yellowed, the ink smudged, but the headline sent a chill down her spine. Local teen disappears without a trace. Daniel Whitmore, 17. Last seen near Blackwood Bay. The article was old, nearly 20 years ago. Daniel had vanished under the exact same circumstances as Rachel. One evening, he told his friends he was going to meet someone near the cliffs. He was never seen again. The town called it a tragic accident, just like Rachel. Lena's hands trembled as she read further. There was something even stranger. Daniel had reportedly told a friend he had been receiving strange notes before his disappearance. Notes that said, "You know too much." Lena's stomach twisted. Rachel had been researching past disappearances. Had she stumbled onto something dangerous? Had someone sent her a warning too? A noise outside made her freeze. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Right outside her window. Lena's blood ran cold. Her heart pounded in her ears as she crept toward the curtains, inching them open just enough to see. A figure stood across the street, barely visible through the mist. Not moving, not leaving, just watching. Lena's breath hitched. Her fingers tightened around Rachel's journal. Rachel had found something she wasn't supposed to. And now Lena had too. Whoever had taken Rachel wasn't done. And Lena was next. Lena barely waited for the figure outside her window to disappear before she made up her mind. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Daniel Whitmore. He had vanished, almost exactly like Rachel. If Rachel had been looking into his case, maybe there was something that connected them. Lena dug through every online archive she could find, scanning through old newspaper reports, missing person records, even town gossip forums. And then, buried in an old community post from 2004, she found it. Daniel Whitmore's family home. It was still standing, abandoned, at the edge of Hollow Street. Lena's stomach tightened. If Rachel had been investigating Daniel's disappearance, had she come here too? She grabbed her backpack, stuffed Rachel's journal inside, and headed for Hollow Street before she could talk herself out of it. The house was a rotting skeleton of what it once was. The paint had peeled away, the windows were broken, and the front door hung slightly open, swaying in the wind. Overgrown weeds crawled up the porch, twisting around the railings like something alive. Lena swallowed hard. Every instinct screamed, "Don't go in." But Rachel had, and if Lena wanted to find her, she had to follow. She stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the wooden floor groaned beneath her feet. Old furniture was still there, draped in white sheets, frozen in time. The silence was suffocating. Lena pulled out her flashlight, scanning the room. A staircase curled up into darkness. Hallways stretched into shadow. Then, something caught her eye. A door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar, light flickering from inside. Her heart pounded. She took a slow step forward, reaching for the doorknob. The moment her fingers touched it, bang! A noise upstairs. A loud, deliberate footstep. Lena's breath hitched. She wasn't alone. Someone else was here. Creaked open, Lena's breath came in shallow gasps as the door creaked open. The room beyond was small and cramped, lit only by a flickering candle on an old wooden desk. Dust floated in the air, swirling in the dim light. But it wasn't the eerie glow or the stale scent of decay that made Lena's stomach tighten. It was the journal sitting open on the desk. Not Rachel's. Someone else's. Lena stepped inside, her heart pounding as she scanned the pages. The handwriting was messy, hurried, words scribbled in frantic desperation. And then she saw it. "They took me, but I came back." Her blood ran cold. The name scrawled at the top of the page, Daniel Whitmore. A floorboard creaked behind her. Lena spun, her flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. Nothing. Then another creak. From below? Slowly she crouched down, pressing her hand against the old wooden floor. The boards were loose, as if someone had pried them open before. Her fingers shook as she wedged them beneath the edge of the floorboard and lifted. Beneath it was a small, hidden space, and inside, Lena's stomach lurched. There, crumpled in the dark, was a bundle of old clothes, a jacket, a faded shirt, and beneath them, a necklace. Rachel's necklace. Lena's breath caught. She had been here. A noise made her freeze. A low, slow exhale, not her own. Lena barely had time to react before something moved in the shadows behind her. She whirled around, just as a figure stepped forward. Pale, sunken eyes, clothes tattered, skin stretched too tightly over bone. Daniel Whitmore. But he wasn't missing, he was here. And in a voice raspy and broken from years of silence, he whispered, "They'll come for you too." Then the candle blew out, plunging the room into total darkness, and Lena screamed.